Шановні колеги, продовжуємо серію прес-брифінгів і вже зараз про підсумки парламентської.
We continue our press briefings, and at the moment, Igor Kabanenko, the former Deputy Minister of Defense of Ukraine, will talk to us about the follow-up on the NATO Parliamentary Assembly. Good afternoon. It was a rather serious event that gathered something like 170 participants from more than 20 countries, and there were 68 MPs from different countries, experts, well-known politicians, economists, many different participants, and this is a high-level event. I and Oksana Shular from the administration of the President of Ukraine got invitations as speakers. This was the first panel discussion, and its topic was From Maidan to the Principles of Democracy, Ukrainian Way. It was a rather broad discussion, a rather interesting. There were other panel discussions as well that touched upon the situation in Moldova, in Georgia, also about Russia and Belarus. There were also human rights activists and political scientists. There were very interesting speeches and comments. We understand that the level of participants, there was Edward Lucas from Economist, Volodymyr Sokar, and many other people who are making a rather deep analysis, who have their own indicators and assessments, and many of their forecasts come true. By the way, there were people, legends, like, for instance, Edward Lucas, who is well known about the legend, about a student of a university, did not go to classes when just read Economist, and still his results on exams were very good. I'd like our politicians and experts heed those recommendations. Also in the military sphere, because this gives us an opportunity to brainstorm the issue, to see different ideas, to take the best out of them. And of course, this is important because truth is born out of arguments. We have talked a lot about strategic things about Ukraine, how the situation will develop, what are the indicators of the development of this situation, and the risks of the frozen conflict in the East, economic issues and political issues connected to the parliamentary elections as well, the issues of armed forces, the entire branch of the defense of the country. I would say rather interesting and rather pragmatic things. I think that this participation was rather interesting, and a lot of this I will use in my further activity. Thank you very much. You have mentioned the scenarios of the development of the situation. What is yours as an expert and a man who even yesterday was the Deputy Minister of Defense? We have to understand that hybrid war is hybrid risks, not only military risks. There's a waveform of all this, and different economic, diplomatic, and political aspects, also information aspects and ethnic aspects are working. This is an all-round multi-level approach, and of course, it requires respective approaches in order to fight this effectively. And not only I, but many experts think that there's an issue of the corridor. The situation in Crimea is not simple. The electricity issue water supply issue, first need commodities, winter storms, and the ways of delivery are limited. So there will be the issue of using a land corridor, and we think that one of the key vectors of the future development of the conflict will be around this land corridor to Crimea. Then, of course, the economic situation, including the political situation connected to the parliamentary election, the economic situation in the context of course, there are economic problems and social problems related to them, and how the government will solve this issue will influence the position of Moscow as well, because there is a risk of using those socio-economic moments with political aims. Another issue which does not pertain in general to the ATO zone, but it pertains to Kharkiv, Odessa, and Mykolaiv, and other cities. This is the issue of how the processes will evolve in our public society, how the public will be able to prevent those risks, and also the issues connected to the efficient activity of law enforcement and special bodies, because a lot will depend on them in avoiding the critical aspects of the development of the situation. So there are three huge blocks of the situation, but there are other issues that will influence the situation as well. The turbulent period is going to continue. The indicators testify to this, but at the same time, this will depend on the management and the real steps that will be done in order to preclude this. I want to tell you that this was also said during the parliamentary hearings at the Parliamentary Assembly, but I'd like to single out one aspect that we should use as well. There is unanimous support for Ukraine from the Western society, from the Western environment. As far as the readiness of real steps is concerned, we have to work here and to build mechanism to meet them halfway, because, of course, political and diplomatic intentions should be transferred into practical direction, and we have much to work upon in this way. Mr. Rasmussen was replaced by a person as a NATO General Secretary who is well known by a good attitude towards Russia, and he says that we should find ways to agree with Russia, not to solve the conflict with military means. So what do you think? Which changes should we expect from NATO? Well, in reality, the General Secretary has sent out rather direct messages and unanimous words of support for Ukraine. His first visit was to Poland, and the mechanisms that are working today, and by the way, I took part in the sitting of the joint working group of high level in Brussels, trust funds and the mutual adaptability program and other programs, training of personnel, really quite a serious pool that we can use, and we should use this in order to really reinforce our defense capacity and mentally make a huge breakthrough forward. Much depends on mentality, from our capacity to overcome Soviet stereotypes, some phobias, and some false assessments that we still have with many of our people, including our military milieu. But I would like to tell you at the same time that we can do quite a lot. Even today, there's several hundred of officers in our military who have been trained in the highest level educational establishments of the West, of the USA. They are bearers of unique knowledge, and we should use this potential. Are we using it now? Well, this is a question for me as well, because I have addressed in writing about this issue, but the decisions have not been adopted. I still think that they should be adopted. We should go away from talk and do more work, and we can go forward in practical things. I think that the time to move fast has come, and we have to change because the society has changed and continues its movement forward. But the state structures should do this also, and this in the first turn applies to the sector of defense. You know, there's a idea that Ukraine is a special country, and what works in the West cannot be applied in Ukraine. I think that this is a critical mistake. We should take the decisions and approaches that have proved their efficiency and just implement them here. And there are questions.
Could you please tell, after the procedure of lustration, what will you be doing? In which sphere will you be working? Are you getting any proposals? Who else from the deputies of the Minister of Defense will or does fall under lustration? Thank you for your question. I do not know for who such a decision was made, but there are some heads, military heads of the agencies, military agencies who fall under lustration. I remember how not easy it was. I was communicating to them when Il-76 aircrafts were prepared, and I know what these people really did for these aircrafts not to fly to Maidan, but they formally fall under lustration. We'll see what will be happening. As to me, I will be doing what I have been doing before. No one can prohibit me to love my country and to work for the sake of the country and to try and build a European type of the country. But you say that many leaders, yes, do you believe that the reasons why you are illustrated are these formal things? Yes, these are formal things. We need to respect the law, but these are formal things because they did not take into account some qualities. Those who know my approaches, I'm always for high-quality approach, high-quality parameters, because high-quality things allow us to move forward. We have done many things thinking about quantity only, but the quality is important. That is what gives the chance to implement the projects, not just to talk about the projects. I have one more question. What would be your advice to the newly appointed Minister of Defense? What mistakes should he be trying to avoid? I believe a deep reform is to be implemented. We need to move forward. People should be appointed, those who have Western educational background, those who have experience in participating in different operations, but also we need to use the wisdom and the experience of others, especially taking into account the fact that we are moving towards NATO, Euro-Atlantic Alliance, and the procedures are to be changed. Those procedures which do not allow to make decisions quickly. I would like to I would recommend to get concentrated on logistics, because we don't have logistics yet. We are still having systems like it was in old times, but we need a real logistical scheme of frameworks. This is to be implemented. This is to be switched to electronic format. But any reform requires political will, the team of people who think alike and who know how things could be done, and resources. Any other questions? When we have no more questions, we would like to thank you